Hello, everyone. This is Angelique from Angelique Guides, Infrastructures for Conscious Leadership and Collective Healing. And as I had mentioned, we couldn't get all of us at the same time on the same day to do kind of more of a collective panel. So we're doing the one-on-ones. And today in this conversation is Zoe Flowers, and I'm stupid excited about it because I feel like we are gonna just like get into the most delicious intersectionalities, the scopes, you know, the macro, the micro, the multidimensional conversation that is happening around our times and seasons. So Zoe, I'm gonna leave it to you to introduce yourself and let folks know where you're at, because I feel like that's insanely awesome.
Yeah. So I am in Ecuador. I'm in a fishing town called Puerto Lopez, and we are in, that's the view. Y'all can see where I am. It's a little cloudy today, but it's still beautiful. And it's a fishing town here in Ecuador, and I'm here doing a retreat called Soul Shifting Retreats that we do on the solstice. So we did the first one in June, and we're having the second one here. And it's all about the shifts, you know, the shifts that are happening energetically, and really working with folks and working with ourselves, meaning ourselves as one of the, you know, the teachers, the guides, whatever. At any moment, I could be teacher, I could be student. But we came to this, you know, remote location at the end of a dirt road, surrounded by mountains. The ocean is right there, basically to get our minds right and to frequentize ourselves, to get into the frequency of healing using an indigenous technology called the Mesa, which is a tool of complete world transformation. And it is an apprenticeship model. And so I'm working with Dr. G. Love. She's my co-maestra. And so she is my co-maestra, but I'm also being apprenticed on the Mesa as well. And we have 20 other people of color who made it over here. And we will be working on the Mesa from tomorrow until the 22nd. So we'll be going right up into the solstice. And we'll be working the Mesa every day, and other rituals as well. Womb raising rituals, grief rituals in the ocean. We're doing a Yemaya water ritual. So we're just doing a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah.
That just sounds amazing and absolutely imperative. Imperative.
Yeah, needed and necessary.
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell folks a little bit about yourself and what you're up to.
Sure. So I'm a writer, and I'm someone who worked in the domestic violence, sexual assault movement for about 15, 16 years. But I had this artistic, creative side that was always fighting to get out, but I kind of pushed down the healer side as well. And then about 6 years ago, those sides wouldn't be quiet anymore. And so I began to make the shift. And so now I write plays and do write poetry and do healing retreats like this. I'm also a Reiki master, so I do that. And like so many of us, just a work in progress, you know, just healing, living, figuring things out.
Yeah. And I always think like when I'm talking about things, the importance of like presencing all those pieces to us and where we're at, and the kind of evolutionary shifting that's happening simultaneously while we're showing up and doing what we're doing, and really feeling like that is much more rooted in our indigenous movement than our colonized, like what's been for us in these present eras. And so it's always like, for me, exciting when we're sharing from that place and we're like, all these pieces are pieces of me and how I'm showing up in the world, because more often than not, we're living in a society that forces people to choose and to shut down the most powerful parts of themselves.
Well, yeah, and it rewards it too.
Yes.
Right? Like you get a paycheck for that. You get, you know, the more parts of yourself that you can shut off and the more robotic you can be, and the more you can mimic the colonizer, chances are the bigger your paycheck will be, or even sometimes you do all of that and you still don't get a bigger paycheck, right? But so those things are rewarded. This morning I spent a lot of time at the ocean. I came on Tuesday, and just today I felt like I was settling in. You know, I was just walking and I was just looking at the ocean floor, and that is all I was doing. I was just like, wow, just look at this. All you need to do right now is look at the ocean floor. And I just literally was just looking, and then just went out into the water and yeah, just letting that central nervous system calm down, letting everything just drop.
Yeah.
So that I could show up.
Yeah. I think I was talking with a friend earlier, and we're kind of like talking about the nature of the work, or any, like, however we language that, like anti-oppression, you know, decolonizing, dismantling type of work, and how, you know, really, to me, ultimately, it's still over and over, no matter how long I'm showing up for this, the necessity to connect to our soul essence and the necessity to ground ourselves is something that needs to be a practice for us, because there's such a demand for disconnection. And so many things are pulling, both energetically, both physically, right? And time constraint, however we want to name that. Just the importance of the journey of, like, coming back to center as a practice, not a perfection, not an end result, just a recognition that this is our movement, and that we're going to flow and move, and then we must come back. Right? And so, and that that's what it looks like. Right?
Well, and I think understanding that we're the work. We're not the outcomes. We're not the things that we put on the logic models. Like, we're the work. We're the survivors. We're surviving shit. Like, every moment. You know, in so many ways. You know, I'm surviving the trauma. I'm healing from X amount of things that could be happening in any moment. So this thing of, you know, I'm already there. It's like, no, I am the work. You know? And in any moment, like, my 7-year-old self could show up, my 12-year-old self could show up. And that doesn't mean that I'm not a good healer. That doesn't mean that I'm not a good advocate. I just have to be the work. And I think that's where we get into trouble in these movements, where we put these titles on ourselves, and they're just another armor. It's just another shield.
And it becomes so, you know, one of the things I talk a lot about, like, in the work, is, like, you know, we're constantly peeling back the layers, constantly. That's a consistent, if anything, know for sure, is that we'll constantly be like this, and there's no way to anticipate when that needs to happen or how that's going to happen. Right? It's a matter of our own movement and kind of shifting and evolving. And then we realize, that needs to go. And we're at capacity where we can be like, oh, I see what that is. And so, like, I feel just really present with, like, that awareness, so that we understand this multidimensional living in a way that we're like, okay, yeah, you know, this is what I'm hoping for, moving toward. And I'm also here right now. And here right now is enough, and I'm enough, and I'm working, and I'm healing, and I'm growing. And it's just like, how do we, and that's what I said to somebody yesterday, you know, we came from indigenous cultures that had in the movement, in their way of lifestyle beingness, already like an ability to hold this capacity of shifting and movement and living and ways. And through colonization, we like continues to narrow down that capacity to this one-dimensional, single focused way of expression. Mm-hmm. And so now, you know, the pieces of the work is like, some of that is to open those spaces for folks to go, oh, it's and it's not either or. It's not a polarity, and that's a construct. I could be having this amazing day and still have a moment of entire, like, my tears are overflowing and I'm hurting because I just remembered that moment on the train station in New York when I was, I don't know, maybe 10 years old, where, you know, some words were spoken to me by a parent that have never left my psyche and had crushed me in a way, and something just triggered that. And I can be present with that. Mm-hmm. Without like trying to resolve it either, but just be present with the feeling so that can actually heal because it has an expression. So to me, it's like, how do we not only live that ourselves and really be solid in our own connection to it, but create that space for others as well to fully embody that.
Yeah, and as you're saying that, you know, what I was feeling was just like the intense fear around that. Mm-hmm. The intense fear of the uncovering.
Yeah.
And I started feeling it when you were talking about peeling back the onion. And if you're a person who's been told by parents, adults, society, whatever, to cover up for so long, saying peeling back the onion, like certain terror.
Sure.
That would create certain terror.
Sure. Sure.
Because what's in there?
Right.
If I start peeling back these things, what's at that core? What is it? What's it going to do? What's it going to do to my relationships?
Yeah. Yep.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So that's that resistance. It's just like making sense to me now. It's like,
yeah,
that's why the resistance, that's why the armor, that's why the protection mechanisms, the coping mechanisms.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, a lot of, you know, when kind of threading to the reason why we've like talked about having these conversations in terms of recognizing the climate and all that's happening right now, and all the conversations and the insane shit that's being said, and coming to, like, for some folks, the dissonance that the reality they thought that existed, privilege, white supremacy, these ideas of this reality that everything was neutral, equal, accessible, like these ideas, because their world was this bubble and this existence, right? And the recognition that when all these emotions are being triggered, whether it's online or in person or in community movement and activism, the recognition that literally we've been moving on the surface for so long that to get deep into the unknown can be a terrifying thing. And that looks distinct for distinct groups of folks, and that can be named as well. But recognizing that fundamentally we're triggering very root issues around how we see ourselves in relationship to the world. And knowing that so that's one piece, and then recognizing as healers that the work we're showing up to do, both being the work and engaging in the work, is fundamentally stepping into these spaces with folks around their own trauma.
Yeah.
And around the years that somebody may have spent ignoring the impact of internalizing the oppressive ways, right, of colonization, and having to face those things in your life.
Yeah.
Your money, the way you've raised your family or your beliefs, like all of these things just infused and interjected. And what happens when we take that away?
Yeah.
When we deconstruct that reality. So in the spirit of that, I'm going to go down, kind of use the questions so that we can head into that. So from the first question is, what's present? And however you want to respond to that, naming that the work that we're talking about is both the healing work, the liberation work, the beingness work, the multidimensional work, right? So however you want to name what's present for you from your distinct view and lens.
In the current climate.
Yes. Yeah.
So what came to me immediately was opportunity. Because I feel like, first of all, and I don't know, I mean, it's hard for me to believe that anybody was laboring under the assumption that things were equitable and everybody had access. I mean, that is a level of willful ignorance or spirit possession, maybe, is what we're dealing with, or alien something. Because I don't know how you could walk outside your door and see people on the street begging and think that the world is never an equitable place. First of all. And I don't know if it ever will be in our lifetime. And I don't even know if that's something to strive for. You know, I think a lot about collective consciousness, and that, you know, we all, and so for people who don't know collective consciousness, I also believe in agreements, soul agreements, etc., that you go into agreements with people before you incarnate, to live out certain experiences on this planet, so that your soul can evolve, etc. So just get that out of the way. That's what I believe, right? So with that in mind, I believe that what we're seeing is just the result of our collective consciousness. That all the fears, all the, you know, I just feel like this is like that movie, The Sum of All Our Fears. Like, I shouldn't even give that honor to Donald Trump, but I just feel like this is the sum of all of our fears, all the things that we just carelessly said, thought, threw out into the universe to grow, all the self-hatred we have for ourselves, that all of these things just grow. I believe in energy. I believe that what you think becomes a thing. And so I believe that this is what we're seeing. This is what we believed anyway. Most people already believe that they're unimportant, that nobody likes them, that people are racist. We believe that. So now we have proof of what we already believed collectively. So where's the opportunity in that? The opportunity is now we're being given an opportunity to look at the monster in the closet, the monster that lives within ourselves, the monsters that the word monster sounds ridiculous, but all the things we didn't want to confront, we now have the opportunity to confront beyond the 4 years. The conversations that you didn't want to have with your mama, the conversations that you didn't want to have with your uncle, all these things that you didn't want to have and you had the privilege not to have. Now you have the opportunity to have that conversation. Now you have the opportunity to be challenged on your beliefs. Now you have the opportunity to be challenged on your privilege. What are you going to do with it? That's me. So for me, I see it as opportunity. I see all the conversations that I chose not to have with people because I felt like, oh, they didn't get me. They don't get it. They don't get me. They don't understand where I'm coming from. So I'm just going to talk to people who think like I do and, you know, engage in those conversations because at least we can move the work forward. Well, guess what? You're not going to change the world if you're just talking to people who already agree with you, right? The world is made up of lots of different people. So yeah, So what's present for me, and this could be just because I'm on the beach in a hammock, right? I see opportunity. Yes, bitch, you see opportunity because you in Ecuador. Now, when I get back to Brooklyn, who knows? Something else might be present when I'm on the subway. But for right now, no. But for right now, I see opportunity, and I'm not surprised by any of it. I believe a lot of kooky things, and I think this is just part of the evolution of the planet. And so we have the opportunity to show up.
Yeah.
And create something different.
Yeah.
That we claim we want.
Yeah. Right on. Yes.
Again, this could be just beach talk.
But that's part of the work, right? Though that's part of the work.
Yeah.
We could talk about very real, both like structural, internal issues, problems, and like we could do that. We need to do that. We need to, right? Because in order to. So the methodology historically of using the same structures that created the problem to create a solution, that's crazy shit. It hasn't worked. And what's required ever, what's required of folks is to step out to the unknown, so to speak, to open and expand to new possibilities. And that is as much part of the work as it is to be about like a space where we're talking about, we could talk about systematic oppression. We could talk about like, how this happened or how that happened. That's important as equally. And that new shit, we better be on some new shit. And we better be about some new shit. Because in order for us, where are we going? And what are we creating into? And surely we can't use the past as a model. It doesn't work.
Well, I think we can use some aspects of the past. For example, one of the reasons why I wanted us to do the other work that we're doing that we won't talk about is because so people going out there protesting, doing all of that stuff, I support it, right? But what they did in the past that they don't do now is those civil rights workers were actually trained to take a punch.
Right.
They were actually trained to go limp.
Right.
They were actually, there was a certain education and training and preparation that this generation does not have. Right. And so people are going out there and they're going to get hurt. Yeah. And so I think that there are some aspects from the past that we do need to employ again, like self-defense, like, there's certain things that that I think are useful. And then certain things that aren't. But I think that we have the benefit of history in that so I was at this organizing thing, and one of the folks there grew up in the Black Panthers movement. He grew up in it. And he was saying that his elders were able to say to him, you could see where we went wrong. So you don't have to make that mistake. Like, because now there's elders that are willing to give information about, we should have focused on this and we focused on that. We should have had this conversation and we had that conversation. Those people are still alive. Right. And so tapping into those resources, I think, is important.
Yeah. And
how do we move?
Yeah. And and I guess my reference is more specifically to the systematic structures of how things have been created. So, when I think about like, and for me, like when I think about indigenous practices, these that we need to reconnect with as indigenous people, right? Like those things are valuable while recognizing that we're also an evolution of that.
Yeah.
Right. And that where we're headed and where we're going, our ancestors, they're with us. So, but haven't in physical form necessarily been the expression of. And so we must show up for our generation, our time, and our cycle of evolution to bring whatever newness in order to co-create
Yeah.
the community that we're talking about. I'm not, not even referencing society, not even referencing the structures, the community at a fundamental connective level as human beings in this shape and form, how we're living on this planet and in relationship to it. But yeah, it's like a recognition. It's interesting because I often think about like, how do we, and I was talking about this with somebody yesterday, how, we need, one of the parts of kind of activism and advocacy that becomes interesting is to observe, like, we need the folks who are like down, ready to grassroots protest on the corner. And I mean like real protest about shit. And we need the folks who are very clearly strategizing, clearly thinking about where we're going, and not just this one momentary impact, but really generational. What the fuck are we doing? What are we doing? And where are we going with this? And living with the consciousness of our creation in this time, and not just a reaction, right? And so one of the things I was saying is like, we need all these pieces, right? We need all these pieces in order to create solid movement and change toward our future. And at least those are my thoughts around it. Like, I watch, unfortunately, sometimes like a hierarchy of like activism. Well, this is what it really looks like, or this is what it really looks like. No, this is what, and I'm like, we need all the pieces. We need all the pieces, because this is where we're at. If we were somewhere else or in some other planet or in some other context, that's great. But here, this is where our physical form is at. And so we need all the pieces collectively. With that, the next question is, what's missing in your purview? Like, what is missing in this work, and from our perspectives and from the conversations that we may be having, again, from your particular eye?
So I believe the multidimensional, the impact of multidimensional frequency, that conversation is missing. I feel like we are on a very physical, tangible, what's impacting me right now, base level conversation. What's in it for me right now? Whereas there's so many things that we don't know. And so for me, it's and I don't even know if it's missing. I really can only talk about what I'm interested in talking about, I think. And so for me, what I would be interested in having more conversations about is our multidimensional nature.
Yeah.
And the possibilities of that. Right? So I'm not going to say it's missing for other people, but I would say for me, I would like to have more conversations like that. And the power of the collective consciousness. And the spells that we cast with our mouths, the things that we say, the things that we believe, but don't say, the fact that we don't believe that change is even possible.
Right.
The fact that we don't think violence will ever end. The fact that we don't really like ourselves when we look in the mirror. The truth might be missing. That might be missing. That might be what's missing. Real deal, hardcore, difficult conversations about how am I trying to change the world, and I can't even change my own household. I'm not even speaking to my mama, but I'm going to try to take somebody out of trauma. Those conversations might be missing.
It came out.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
That's a great missing. The truth is missing. You know, like if we really, like, what if we just all got together, like healers, and really just got raw about like
Yes.
our lives
Yes.
first,
Yes.
and just like shed that
Yes.
shit.
Yeah.
Now I can be free. Now I can have a real conversation because I don't have on a mask and I don't have to pretend like I have everything together, but I got my crystal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
our real superpowers could probably come through if we weren't
Right.
so afraid.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
I was having that conversation earlier with a friend. I was like, you know, I was like, and I said it yesterday in the workshop. I was like, y'all, like, for the showing up, you've got to be able, you got to be real about like where your GPS at. And it might not be where you're like, I just went and I said it yesterday. I was like, I just went through fucking like a divorce that kicked my ass. It was so painful. I'm still healing from that. That shit opened up a Pandora's box of my own shit. And where I'm not like, oh, you know, I just, you know, I took a quartz and rubbed my shit and I'm done. Nope. I'm like, I'm crying still for shit that happened to my ancestors. How about that? And how about the places where in my own internal being, like I'm checking my own love, like, and what that means and my own worthiness around that. And the pain that there's in that, and what I actually think about it, and how I've lived out of this space or that, and like fucking laying all that shit down, because that often enough it's the stuff that's hidden, covering up, like just super protected, because there can even be shame around that shit. There can be like, because you're supposed to sound fill in the blank, and I'm like, okay, that's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen because that's not real, and we can't heal if we ain't talking about what's real.
Yeah, and so G and I were having a conversation yesterday about the June retreat, which was the first retreat we did here, and I was like, damn, you know, I was in like the worst relationship when I was here in June. It was over, but I guess I didn't get the memo that it was over. I was still trying to, you know, and I was like upset about like, damn, why isn't this man calling me? Like, I'm all the way in Ecuador and he's even called to see if I'm alive, da-da-da-da-da. Meanwhile, like there's people here who like legit paid money to like come and help, for me to help them, right? With their own things. But I was so like in my own thing, you know? And that was the reality of that moment in time. That was stuff that I was going through while still being a guide and this and that. But then in my own self feeling like insecure and all of that. Why doesn't he love me? Why don't people like me? You know, all of that shit.
Yeah.
And it's all okay. And it's all fine. Like that's the reality.
Absolutely.
The reality is you could be a teacher and feeling, I don't believe that people are broken. I don't believe that. I don't subscribe to like people are broken and they need to be fixed. But I do feel that we can have moments where we feel brokenness.
Absolutely.
But we're still powerful, even in those spaces.
Yes. Yeah.
I could still show up and be there for you, even if in that moment I couldn't be there for me.
Absolutely.
That's when I need my sisters to come in or my brothers to come in and help.
Yeah. And that to me, you know, that is like the nature of a lot of my work is in those spaces, right? Like the transparency and the authenticity, and those are, you know, funky words, but like recognizing that, again, back to this idea of things looking finished, polished, perfect, arrived, like this whole formula around what it means to fully embody this that we are. And, you know, while there are ways to have conversations about projection and I think those things happen when we're not self-aware, when we're not conscious of what's going on the inside. When I can name, like, I'm like hurting, and that hurt is fucking with my trust.
Yeah.
And in fucking with my trust, that means that whatever's coming at my way, my lens is a little distinctive right now because I'm experiencing pain and I'm experiencing challenge. If I can name that, then I know where I can offer like a little bit of space and for the relationships that I'm engaging in, that I care about, people, loved ones, whatever the case may be, and not like throw that shit like on somebody else, because I'm like, this is where I'm at. I'm in pain, and I'm going to be with that. I'm going to be with that. I'm not asking for your permission. I'm not asking for you. Like, I'm going to be with my pain. I'm not going to fake that to make it seem anything. This is life. It's showing up. It's being with myself and being with others, and being able to recognize when that is like challenging for me to be with others because I'm in a space of challenge with being with myself because I'm in pain. And that is part of the story. It's and that we recognize the quality of that engagement when it's transparent and real.
Well, that makes me think about the spell of the United States and why people, myself included, were upset about the election. Because we think things are going to be it's like The Wire. You want things to be one way, but it's another way, right? But it's like someplace like here or in other countries, they don't expect like everything to be tied up in a bow. They don't expect. Yeah, I just think we expect things to be very pretty, very presentable, very nice.
Yes. I mean, our conditioning is such, right? Like we look at the formula of 12 years equals you arrived here.
Yeah.
8 more years means you arrived here.
Yeah.
And then a couple of more years means you have the dog, the kids, the house, the car. A couple of more years, and if you put money away, that means that when you're ready to step out of that particular thing, then you're caught by this thing. Everything is like this arrival.
Yeah.
Right? This constant like, this is security. This is exactly what's going to happen when. Now, when that hasn't been your life experience and it's experienced trauma, loss, right? All that shit becomes dismantled. And you recognize, wait, no matter what I did, this shit still happened.
Well, it's the election, right?
Yeah.
I did all the right things. I went to the right school. I married the right man. He became president. I deserve this. Yeah. And when the black man was running, it was a very like, I got this. I don't have to do much. I deserve this. Oh, okay, lost. And then this other, well, surely I'm going to, because this man hasn't done. And surely, and we all was down with it. Yes, he's a vagina grabber. Of course he's not going to. No, they wouldn't elect a vagina. Of course, he didn't do the right things. He didn't say the right things. Of course he's, so it's like, really? I'm just thinking about this now. It's like a huge like lesson for all of us. I mean, it's like the ultimate trickster energy. Like, yeah, you could do all the right things and shit still ain't going to go your way.
That's right.
Now what? Now we over in Ecuador trying to regroup, trying to get our whole lives together, having conversations and doing all types of stuff.
That's what I love that meme that goes around with Angela Bassett where she lit the car on fire and she's walking away. I'm like, that's what happens. You just like start smoking shit, just blazing it, and you gotta go and like collect yourself, collect your goddamn self. Fuck everything. You're like, I gotta collect myself because I need some space to do that.
Yeah.
You
can. So that's the moral of the story is, you could do all this right shit, and it still might not end up your way.
That's right. And that's where, to me, the conversations about like, what is our movement? Who are you? what are you dreaming of? What is that? What is that thing? Who gave you that dream? Because I want to know. Are you dreaming a dream that's yours, or are you dreaming a dream of the conditioning and the empire? What are you dreaming? Right? And what are you working toward? And what happens when all of that is gone? Who are you then? What are you about then? Like, you know, to me, you know, part of my work is like creating a space for a lot of those deeper conversations at so many different levels. Is like, babe, I'm like, babe, I hope, I pray that you find yourself more than just your job, more than just like, and not more like in terms of like value, but like your existence and living, that is more than how it looks right now. Because what happens if that don't look that way?
Yeah.
Can you be in resonance and alignment with yourself? Can you be in harmonic frequency with yourself, no matter what all else is changing? Can you synthesize? How we've escaped that way of frame, and to me, like, that's what I show up a lot for, is like a lot of that while holding myself in that space, while holding myself to the compassion that I need to have with myself in growing and changing and evolving these parts of me, right? Or where the ancestral connections are in pain because of oppression and because of fill in the blank, like go on and so forth. And so I feel like, which leads up to the next question. What are some strategies that to you are fire in these times, and that have you lit up about the work and showing up? And I know in the beginning you talked about kind of like opportunity and possibility. And now I want to, like, you know, switch that into like, what strategies are present for you that you're like, okay, these are the things. And I would say even venture, like what you said around what's missing, like, you know, it's your personal perspective, but there's strategies that folks can be like, okay, you know, that resonates with me, or maybe doesn't, but what for you is that? What are strategies for now?
It's going to be real simple. This morning, I was walking on the ocean floor and looking at my feet. Real simple. Not saying people have to go to the ocean, but it was seeing. I've been here 3 days, and I have to commit to seeing people. So I sat at that water and I just thought about seeing people, period. Like, just see people. Just see people. Just open yourself up. Just look at your feet. Just slow down. Like, just slow down.
Yeah.
That is all I have to. I don't have 5 tips. I don't have no strat. All I got is slow the fuck down.
Yes.
Look at your feet. What does it feel like for your feet to be touching the ground? Like, literally, that is what I did this morning.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to do every morning. I'm going to just look at my feet, and then I felt my shoulders soften, and then I felt my body like sink down, and then I just sat in the dirt, and I just sat and I let my root sink into the dirt, and I just sat there, and I just sat there. I sat there, and then I started to see, because when I went to the ocean, some of the folks were having breakfast. So then I started to see the people that were eating. And I was like, let me just see these people. Let me see this man who's jogging in front of me and say, good morning.
Yeah. Even
if he don't want to speak. Somebody, I had to say it. Hola. He kept speaking. I said, hola. You gonna speak to me today, mister, because I'm committed to seeing you. But really, that's all I have today. It just, because I was like, I've been here 3 days and I'm just settling in. And so that's my commitment to being with these folks. So first I started to see them, and then I started keying into their hearts and feeling what their needs are.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sit, I'm going to see them. I'm going to feel what their needs are. And I'm going to come out of how they're seeing me.
Mm. Mm.
So my prayer was to, which is the same thing before I do Reiki. I ask for, anything that's associated with Zoe to be taken out.
Mm. Mm.
And so I'm going to take the focus off of me, and I am going to put the focus on them and what their needs are, and see them and just be curious about what happens.
Powerful.
Because it felt powerful. I was walking and I was like, how many people that are no longer here have walked along this ocean? How many people have touched this floor? How many animals? And then I was just like, you've got to see. Your eyes have to be open. You've got to see the people that are in front of you, because we're missing a lot. Yeah. We're not seeing people.
Yeah. The two other kind of questions, but I feel like it just all summed up in what you said, but I'll read them and then you do what you feel, or if you feel complete in what you already said. One of them is life support. What do folks showing up need to hear, and how can we give life? And recognizing that the language of life support is like something seems to be dying, but it's recognizing those places where folks are like, and or healers. And I feel like, but you spoke to some of that now. So whatever you feel coming through. The other one is actions. And I'm always really cautious around this language, because I feel like, again, back to that orientation of like, what do we do? What's the checklist, the to-do list? And it's not so much about that, but it's like, what can be a possibility for folks? And moving
I love
in a forward direction, right?
Yeah. That's a great question. So what was the question before that about the life support? Because I like that too.
Yeah, life support. What do folks showing up need to hear, and how can we give life?
I think we need to listen. I think we're not going to know. I think every single person is going to need something different. So I think that we need to be clean.
Yes.
So we can hear. What they need. Because I don't know what these people need yet. I just started seeing them. Some of them been here 2 days. I just started seeing them today. So when I get off this phone with you, I'm going to have my lunch. I'm going to sit with them, and I'm going to start to really listen. And scan. Right? So then they'll tell me.
Absolutely.
They'll tell me.
Absolutely.
But I need to be able to hear it.
Absolutely. I love that. Somebody yesterday said to me, they said, I heard you speaking in a meeting, and they were like, and I noticed that you do this. It's like you're strong, but you're also listening. And you, like, his description was pretty so on it that he could see. And he was like, it's like you're listening, and where you're going to be like a little stronger at it. And then you release the pressure. He was like, I just think that was great. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's a good way of saying that. But it's present, seeing exactly what you're talking about. Understanding that when we're present and when we're in listening, and we're talking about a multidimensional listening for what's needed in the moment, and how do we create space for that? How we, and that being such an important thing. So thank you for sharing that. That was awesome.
Thank you. But I also want to say, and knowing that we might not hear it with our ears, we might feel it in our bodies, and to be okay with that, and to let our bodies tell us where it wants to go.
And that step back to that again, the multidimensional piece of the conversation. And this is, to me, it's like that's becoming like at the forefront of any space I'm in. It's like continue to create space to build that multidimensional, like your body is listening. Everything is listening. Everything is listening. This is listening. This is like, it's all listening and presencing its environment as it should be. That's how we're created in this way. And so it's like, when I walk outside, and that's what the other day I was thinking, I was walking in the path behind my house, and it's like, it almost feels like a little forest. Yet it's stuck between two like complexes and things. And as I'm walking, I was gonna take out my phone and take a picture. And I'm like, this is so beautiful. I'm so glad that this was like, it's here for like my enjoyment. And then I was like, what the fuck am I talking about? I'm like, shit, this shit, like I could hear it like a whisper, right? Like, this shit is here because it's here, and it's for its own beingness. I'm like, I'm in space. I am cohabitating space. Right? Stuck my phone back in my pocket, and I'm like, okay, I'm with you. I'm here with this. This is the relationship. This is, I'm with you here. I honor the tree. Yes, the leaves. Thank you. Thank you. I see you. I see you. Right? Like I see. And I walked, and I was like, my bad. My bad. I was like, I see you. I'm so sorry. Damn it. Right? But just kind of that internal recognition of being in a sensory frequency with the world as a whole, as we're moving with water, with air, right? With earth, with fire, and kind of in the dimensions, both the earth realm, right? Like as we look out into our galaxies, like go. And that we're walking with this. Yeah. Right? While we're probably walking, yesterday, I used that as a thing in my workshop yesterday as an exercise. Asked one of the participants to stand and started loading him up with bags, papers, like the tissue box, like and he's like standing there, trying to hold it, put my laptop. I was like, be careful with my laptop, that's my baby. And he's like holding it, and it's getting heavier and heavier. And I said, I want you to imagine that I asked him to go run with this. This is us every damn day. Yeah. Every piece of paper represents a thought. Multiply that exponentially. And we're walking around with all of this. Yeah. Right? And kind of unconscious to the fact that while we're carrying this, there's like the earth around us. There's the other people right in close proximity with their thing and their field. And how do we begin? How do we begin to create space for that awareness and be like, oh shit. So let me be presence more deeply. Because not only do I need to do that for myself, but I'm sitting in space with everything else. And your ancestors. Yeah. And those other people's ancestors. Yes. And the other spirits that are around. There's a lot of people around. Yes. A lot of entities around. Yes. Yep. So the last one was actions, and the idea of, what's a possibility? Yeah. What's a possibility? Well, what do you mean? What's a possibility that you want to offer up to those showing up for the work and those, so talking about the frequency we've been talking about, what's a possibility from your particular view that you want to offer up to the collective? Yeah, I think, I feel, the possibility for a new way of being, a possibility of being happy, a possibility of getting your needs met, of asking for your needs to be met and expecting them to happen. And so what is an action? Get you some help, get you some acupuncture, get you some healers in your corner. That's what I'm working for, is the possibility of like actually obtaining the life that I feel was put on me when I was a little kid, like the vision that I saw, the visions of my life that I feel like I was given. Yeah. That's what I'm working towards. Yeah. Yeah. And so a part of that vision, in order for my vision to happen, some other shit needs to happen. Yeah.
In the world for that vision to be a possibility.
Yeah.
So I'm working for that, and I'm also working for my vision.
Yes.
Because I'm included in that equation. You know, I deserve some happiness out this piece.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I often, when I'm in a, caucus with folks of color and we're having conversations and there's older folks, elders present, I'm like, when was the last time you took a vacation? And they look at me, they're like, what do you mean? I was like, God damn it, you better be fucking taking a vacation. Right. I was like, we coming up, next generation's coming up. What you been working for? What's the point? Shit. What's the point?
What's the point?
What's the point? Like if there is not, if we cannot live, what's the point?
Right.
What is the fucking point? And so they look at me, I'm like, yeah, go on vacation. Please give me some goddamn hope. Take some fucking pictures in a bikini or whatever makes you happy, right? I'm like, go do something fun and put it on the Facebook so I could check it. So I could be like, hope, like heart, smiley face, like heart, what are we living for, man? What the fuck are we living for? What's the work for?
That's my number one. I have had those conversations with myself. Like, what am I doing this for? Like, who are these people that I don't even know that, like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? Now it's like, oh, okay, this is why. Now it's becoming clear. But that's when the resentment, like when I'm not doing the things that I need to really do for myself, that's when the resentment comes, and that's when I hit the wall, and that's when I don't want to like answer phone calls or, do the things that I get paid to do or get an attitude because I'm not doing the things for myself that I need to do.
Yeah. That when I end my workshops, I'm usually like, because we're talking about like racism, we're talking about like sexism, like all this deep shit. And as I'm closing, I'm like, and then you get a nice cigar, or then you make love, or you eat something so goddamn tasty. And they're looking at me like,
yeah.
Stuff. And I'm like, we can't stay in that place.
Yeah.
We've got to learn how to go, then I'm gonna take me a cigar and I'm gonna savor that moment because I'm here right now.
Yeah.
I'm here right now.
Yep.
I got to know how to cushion every part of how I'm showing up with the things that bring me joy and bring me pleasure, and being willing to ask myself that every day, being willing to like live with that question, like, what does that look like for me now? Because yesterday that looked like a bath, but today that may look like going to bed early. Yesterday that looked like and today may be looking different. So yeah, thanks for saying that and offering that up, because I think that that's something that I feel like we need to include more in the conversation, and not in that like hokey fucking like just visioning way that things can sound, create a vision board, but really thinking about that and the here and now.
So this morning, I was walking on the beach, like I said, and I took my top off. And it was like 9 o'clock in the morning. No, it wasn't, because I didn't wake up till 9:30. It was probably like 10 o'clock. This is a fishing town. People are at work. I was just like, never done that. I never even skinny dipped until I came here in June.
Nice.
And I just stood there and I was like, this is freaking awesome. I was just like, yes. And then I just went into the water. I had my leggings on. I went into the water. I just was like soaking wet. People were jogging down the beach. And then I was like, but then I was just like the freedom, like just to be free in ways that we just got to be freer. We just got to be freer. Yeah. I mean, just to like let just to be outside and let the air just like blow over me.
Yes.
Just that freedom.
Yes.
I was like, wow, this is really cool. Yeah. And not to care what people think.
Yeah.
You know, just to be in our bodies and to enjoy them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I wrote a poem once about, like, you know, freedom smells like mangoes,
Mm.
like coconuts. Freedom smells like
Mm.
palm trees, like the
Mm.
sand, like freedom smells like, because to me, my own work has become like noticing and being there in that moment where I'm like, oh my God, this is right here. This is sacred. This is
Yeah.
holy. This moment right here. Right.
Mm.
And like deep bow that I get to like even witness that. Wow,
Yes.
man. Deep bow.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Exactly.
Mm,
Exactly. So people have fun. You're only here for a short time. You might as well have fun while you're here.
yes.
Somebody's got to have fun. It might as well be you.
Hello. So where can people find you if they want to connect with you for any
Yeah.
inspired reason, if that's something you want to offer up?
Sure. Yeah, people can go to my website. It's Soul Requirements, SOUL requirements.org. Very simple. They can go to Soul Shifting Retreats. We'll be doing our next series of retreats starting next June, September, and then we have another. I think we might do it in November too. I think. So yeah, so my website, YouTube, Zoe Flowers. I'm accessible.
Awesome.
I'm on everything. Instagram, as I think about it. I am Zoe Flowers on Instagram, and Divine by Design on Twitter. So,
Okay.
yeah, if you type in Zoe Flowers domestic violence, you'll find me.
Okay. Awesome. Goddess, thank you.
Thank
For the
you.
honor of being in space with you and connecting in the conversation. And
Yeah.
thank you so
Yeah, I
much.
look forward to more. I look forward to more.
Yes, yes, yes,
More
yes.
connection.
Yeah. And so blessings and presence to you where you're at.
Thank you.
And on your journey. Enjoy it, savor it.
Thank you.
And send Dr. G my love, big hug and big kiss.
I will.
And I hope you have a beautiful day and a beautiful time in Ecuador and a safe travel back.
Thank you, and have a great holidays and all of that good stuff.
You too.
All right.
All right, beautiful.
All right, I'll see you soon.
All right, hon. Bye-bye.
Peace.